The Torah is the oldest text which has been in constant use in Western civilization. It's never been buried and rediscovered. And that's because the Torah really mirrors back to you your life. Every day that you read it, it's the story of your life. So in this Torah podcast, I'd like to explore the weekly Torah portion with you and share with you some insights that could mirror back to you the landscape of your life. We're going to study this week the Torah portion of Behaalotecha. And we start with the beginning of the Torah portion, chapter 8, verse 2. The Torah says, "Speak to Aaron and say to him, when you fire up the lamps of the candelabrum, the 7 lamps cast their light towards the center of the candelabrum." This is the commandment to light the menorah, the candelabrum in the temple, which was done by Aaron the high priest. What does this mean to us? What does it mean to kindle the candelabrum? You see, as earthly beings, we all suffer from a certain spiritual moodiness. We're all a bit moody. And the reason for that is that we are torn between our earthly cravings, our earthly desires, and our higher metaphysical spiritual consciousness. The angels, the upper beings, don't have this problem. They're constantly basking in the ray of the divine. They don't have any split personality. They're not torn between different identities, but we are. And this is what the Kabbalists describe as a constant running and returning. The terms they used are ratzu v'shuv, running, returning, running, returning. We yearn for transcendence, and then we yearn to come back down to earth. And that's actually reflected in the heartbeat. When you go to the doctor and you get your blood pressure, he gives you 2 numbers, not 1. Diastolic pressure and systolic pressure, which reflects when the heart is beating and when it's relaxing, because we're always yearning to leave the world, leave our existence, and then yearning to come back down to earth. And because of that difficulty existence, we need constant inspiration. We need to constantly fire ourselves up. And that's the inner reason why there is a mitzvah, there is a commandment to light the menorah every day. If you're an angel, you don't need to light your menorah every day. But if you're an earthly being, then you need constant inspiration to fuel that cycle of ratzu v'shuv, of going above and below again. Let's move on. Chapter 9, verse 7. We have this interesting story of the second Passover. This group of people come to Moses and say, "We are ritually pure due to contact with a dead person. Why should we be the losers? We've been prevented from offering God's sacrifice in its appointed time with all the children of Israel." What happened? Who were these men? So the Babylonian Talmud in Tractate Sukkah said they were Mishael and Elzaphan, who actually were the ones who buried the sons of Aaron, the high priest, Nadav and Avihu. Remember back in the Torah portion of Shmini, they were the unfortunate ones who offered the unauthorized incense in the tabernacle, and tragically they died. These men were the ones who buried Nadav and Avihu. That's what the Talmud says. But Rabbi Yitzhak Luria, Rabbi Isaac Luria, the famous 16th century Kabbalist, actually gave a fascinating insight here in terms of the doctrine of Gilgul, reincarnation. We, according to Judaism, we all have recycled souls. Our souls have been down many times before. We've had many lives before. And often our destiny in life is sculpted by our previous lives. And the Arizal, Rabbi Isaac Luria, actually went through many of the biblical characters, and he explained how they are the same souls recurring and re-emerging again and again. Nadav and Avihu were actually, had sparks of the same soul, the soul of Cain, the son of Adam. And Adam had this enormous soul, which was fragmented into many pieces. The soul itself has many levels. The lowest level of the soul, according to the Kabbalah, is the nefesh, which is the vitalizing element of the soul. That went into Cain and was reincarnated into Nadav and Avihu. And that's why these men said, "Anachnu tameim lenefesh Adam." We are impure because we buried a person who had the nefesh of Adam. A person, 2 people who had reincarnated into them the nefesh, the lowest part of the soul of Adam, of the first man himself, of Adam Harishon, the first man himself. There's a lot going on behind the scenes in the Torah. And actually, the same teacher, Rabbi Isaac Luria, taught a fascinating insight in terms of soul roots when it comes to what for me is the most gripping of the entire Torah portion, the part where the Jews complain to Moses that they want meat. And Moses becomes derailed. I mean, he's very upset by this complaint. And in chapter 11, verse 15, he says to God, "Please kill me, so I do not see my misfortune." And the obvious question here is that surely he should have said, "Please kill me so I don't see their misfortune." Not my misfortune. It was the people that were misbehaving, not Moses. Why did he say, "So I don't see my misfortune"? So Rabbi Isaac Luria explains it in terms of the doctrine of Gilgul, of reincarnation. Moses was a reincarnation of the soul of Abel, Cain's brother. Who instigated this rebellion of the craving for meat? It was the Erev Rav, the Egyptian convert who had left with the Jewish people, and they instigated the golden calf. And here, according to many commentators, according to Rashi and Ibn Ezra, it was they that also instigated the craving for meat. Who are the Erev Rav? Says Rabbi Isaac Luria, they were sparks of the soul of Abel. Why was Moses so drawn to them? Because he was drawn to the sparks of his own soul. God had told Moses, "Don't take the Erev Rav, they're going to cause you trouble." But Moses says, "No, they're fine people, they're sincere, I want them." It's unusual of Moses to ignore the advice of God, to challenge him, especially as we see that it was unwise. Why was Moses so irrationally drawn to the Erev Rav? Says the Arizal, says Rabbi Isaac Luria, because they were offshoots of his own soul. And here we see it hinted in the verse. "Please kill me so I don't see my misfortune." He saw them in himself. And here we see an important spiritual principle, that sometimes when we're drawn to certain individuals in our lives, it could be that certain sparks of their soul is in ours, certain parts of the spiritual anatomy is interconnected, because all of our souls are interconnected. And finally, we have this, going back to the complaining, which I think is the most fascinating part of the Sedra. Moses says to God, listen to this, listen to his complaint. "Why have you mistreated your servant?" This is a chapter 11, verse 11 and on. "Why have I not found favor in your eyes? Did I conceive this entire people? Did I give birth to them? Why did you tell me embrace them like a nurse carries a baby?" Why was Moses complaining so bitterly about the craving for meat? I mean, when they worshipped the golden calf, he defended them. He said to God, "If you don't forgive them, wipe me out of the Torah." Why now is he complaining? All they were asking for is some meat. The answer is very simple. Moses looked at himself as a teacher. He felt that, worshiping a golden calf was a theological mistake, so he's going to teach them about monotheism. The craving for meat? They're a bunch of babies. I have to deal with people complaining and grumbling and wanting meat? That means I'm a babysitter, like a nurse carries a baby. I'm not cut out for that. That's what true leadership's all about. That's why he was so angered, but that's what true leadership's all about. It's about not just the brilliant idea, it's the warm embrace. It's the willingness to put yourself aside, not just to come into the classroom and teach, but to put yourself aside every moment of the day for your flock. Thank you very much for listening. I'd like to just leave you a spiritual challenge, a spiritual message for the week. Parshat Behaalotecha. Listen to the murmurings and rebellion of your ancestors. How do they mirror in your life? What are the places of your enslavement? Listen to your own whining, your own complaining. What are your fears that make you complain in life? Your spiritual work for the week is to try and focus on those wounds that led you to the fear in the first place. Build on trust. All complaining comes from a lack of trust. Let's work on it this week, and please join us again next week for Torah in 10. Thank you very much.